The KZN provincial government says it will ask experts about what's happened this past weekend where it recorded at least 2 tremors. The first one, with an estimated magnitude of 4.6, was recorded near Dundee on Saturday. The second was recorded on Sunday near Kokstad. Let's talk about this now with Willem Meintjes from the Council for Geoscience. Willem, a very good afternoon to you. Grateful for your time. Put in context events in KZN this past weekend. What exactly happened?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Tembekile, and to all the viewers. The seismic events that we've seen over the last weekend now in the KZN province, we can confirm that both of the events did indeed register on our national seismograph network as well. So both of them at this point in time, we can confirm as well that it's natural occurring seismic events. So these are typically as a result of geological processes on a much more regional scale, linked to, for instance, the East Africa Rift Valley and coming down off the east coast of South Africa, where these tectonic features do have an impact on the country as well.
Is it right to refer to what happened as earthquakes?
Yes, yeah. So both of them were earthquakes, natural occurring earthquakes.
And just on the technicality, I mean, I made a note of that as you were talking about it, where you said that they did not occur along the same geological structure, but might be more interrelated on a regional scale, which means what in plain language?
So if you look at geological processes, we usually tend to look at them more on a global scale, especially in the Southern African context. So where you have these earth pressures and stresses redistributed, typically, as we know from plate movements relative to one to another. We do get that stress transfer along these so-called geological zones of weakness, if you may, that are more prone to movement to generate earthquakes.
And in terms of where this happened in KwaZulu-Natal, when most of us think of seismic activity in South Africa, most of the reports come from areas such as Gauteng. I've heard a few in the northwest. How unusual is it that there'd be 2 earthquakes in 2 days in KwaZulu-Natal?
Yes, so in terms of South Africa, I think by comparison to global standards, other countries experience quite a bit more seismic activity, natural occurring seismic activity compared to South Africa. Since we're in a sort of a stable interplate context, so we do get seismic activity still in the country. We are not completely aseismic as a country. So it is not as frequent that you would see relatively larger scale earthquakes occurring that close to one another. Although, the Earth is a very complex system and seismology in that context as well.
Is it a situation then, based on what you're saying, that could change? Could we become more prone to earthquakes than we already are, especially in different parts of the country, be it coastal or inland?
So I think in general terms, the history that we have in terms of a geological and seismological earthquake record in South Africa, that's pretty much at this point in time the best precursor that we have to what we can expect to happen in the future. Since there's unfortunately, even on global standards, no accurate or reliable way to predict earthquake occurrences.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the historical earthquakes that we have recorded in the country and around our neighboring countries, that's at this point in time the best indication that we can have on what to expect in the future.
Right. 2 last questions. Do we in South Africa experience more earthquakes than we are aware? And B, now that you've had these 2 recorded in KZN in as many days, what level of monitoring now needs to happen?
So I think over the last 3 or 4 decades, as a country, we've really invested to quite some extent to modernize our seismic monitoring capabilities and infrastructure. And I think as a result of that, especially since around about 2006, we are now able to detect earthquakes across the country on a 24/7 basis. Before that, we relied heavily on analog techniques and other methods. So as a result of this, now we are picking up a lot of seismic activity. although most of it is actually not really discernible. It's really micro tremors that we refer to them as well. So for the future, I mean, this is giving us good indications that can give us hints of areas that are generally seismically more active compared to others in the country.
Willem Meintjes, thank you so much for your time today.